Dr. Pauet spoke English fluently with scarcely a trace of foreign accent, but with an elaboration which suggested that he had learned the language as much from study of the English classics as from conversation. "And how is Miss Dauncey?" he asked, turning to his friend. Arthur Burdon smiled. I expect she's all right. I've not seen her today, but I'm going to tea at the studio this afternoon, and we want you to dine with us at the Chien Noir." "I should be much pleased, but do you not wish to be by yourselves?" "She met me at the station yesterday, and we dined together. We talked steadily from 6:30 till midnight. Or rather, she talked, and you listened with the delighted attention of a happy lover." Arthur Burdon had just arrived in Paris. He was a surgeon on the staff of St. Luke's, and had come ostensibly to study the methods of the French operators, but his real object was certainly to see Margaret Dauncey. He was furnished with introductions from London surgeons of repute, and already had spent a morning at the Hôtel Dieu, where the operator, warned that his visitor was a bold and skilful surgeon whose reputation in England was already considerable, had sought to dazzle him by feats that savoured almost of legerdemain. Though the hint of charlatanry in the Frenchman's methods had not escaped Arthur Burdon's shrewd eyes, the audacious sureness of his hand had excited his enthusiasm. During luncheon he talked of nothing else, and Dr. Pauet, drawing upon his memory, recounted the more extraordinary operations that he had witnessed in Egypt. He had known Arthur Burdon ever since he was born, and indeed had missed being present at his birth only because the Khedive Ismail had summoned him unexpectedly to Cairo. But the Levantine merchant who was Arthur's father had been his most intimate friend, and it was with singular pleasure that Dr. Pauet saw the young man, on his advice, enter his own profession and achieve a distinction which himself had never won. Though too much interested in the characters of the persons whom chance threw in his path to have much ambition on his own behalf, it pleased him to see it in others. He observed with satisfaction the pride which Arthur took in his calling, and the determination, backed by his confidence and talent, to become a master of his art. Dr. Pauet knew that a diversity of interests, though it adds charm to a man's personality, tends to weaken him. To excel one's fellows, it is needful to be circumscribed. He did not regret, therefore, that Arthur in many ways was narrow. Letters and the arts meant little to him, nor would he trouble himself with the graceful trivialities which make a man a good talker. In mixed company he was content to listen silently to others, and only something very definite to say could tempt him to join in the general conversation. He worked very hard, operating, dissecting, or lecturing at his hospital, and took pains to read every word, not only in English but in French and German, which was published concerning his profession. Whenever he could snatch a free day, he spent it on the golf links of Sunningdale, for he was an eager and a fine player. But at the operating table Arthur was different. He was no longer the awkward man of social intercourse, who was sufficiently conscious of his limitations not to talk of what he did not understand, and sincere enough not to express admiration for what he did not like. Then, on the other hand, a singular exhilaration filled him. He was conscious of his power, and he rejoiced in it. No unforeseen accident was able to confuse him. He seemed to have a positive instinct for operating, and his hand and his brain worked in a manner that appeared almost automatic. He never hesitated, and he had no fear of failure. His success had been no less than his courage, and it was plain that soon his reputation with the public would equal that which he had already won with the profession. Dr. Pauet had been making listless patterns with his stick upon the gravel, and now, with that charming smile of his, turned to Arthur. "I never cease to be astonished at the unexpectedness of human nature," he remarked. "It is really very surprising that a man like you should fall so deeply in love with a girl like Margaret Dauncey." Arthur made no reply, and Dr. Pauet, fearing that his words might offend, hastened to explain. "You know as well as I do that I think her a very charming young person. She has beauty and grace and sympathy, but your characters are more different than chalk and cheese. Notwithstanding your birth in the East and your boyhood spent amid the very scenes of the 1001 Nights, you are the most matter-of-fact creature I have ever come across." "I see no harm in your saying insular," smiled Arthur. "I confess that I have no imagination and no